experiment quickly developed into a healthy challenge to try out other exercise forms like yoga.
Alright, let me see if I can do some of this. But looking at you, I am getting inspired. Okay. So Uncle, you have to guide me now. My legs are on the floor. I am lifting my back.
While I struggled, the couple says both of them lost nearly 20 pounds each in 10 months and feel healthier than before. But Mrs. Nair admits they do miss the freedom of going to their neighborhood park.
बात तो मैं बहुत मिस करती हूँ.
I miss going to the park so much because it was like a morning routine for me. I could walk and meet all my friends there. I feel at home you can only do limited exercises and I miss walking in the gardens.
So what keeps them going right now? Mr. Nair says it's the compliments he gets on his newly developed abs.
I was feeling uneasy recently, so I went to a doctor. She looked at my admission card details where my age was mentioned as 70 years. She looked up and stared at me from top to bottom and was surprised. She said, "Oh my God, you don't look 70, sir. You're so young." I felt so happy and that compliment made my day.
You have made my day. ये सबसे बड़ा compliment था मेरे लिए.
Well, that's one compliment to make anyone's day. We're back in the studio and I've managed to change my sweatpants. Taking a cue from this energetic couple, let's dive right in to talk about health and fitness with our panel. We have with us Jitendra Choksi, who's founder of an online fitness community, Fitter. Welcome, Jitendra.
Thanks a lot, Davina.
So, Jitendra, you are 6:30 a.m. riser, and did you relate to some parts of this elderly couple story, especially when they said they transformed from being fat to fit at this age? You, at the age of 14, were also bullied for your weight.
Well, I think I relied more on scientific know-how. Of course, it was not easy as there's a lot of fads and misconceptions that predominantly exist in our country, and so it was all about cutting through these norms, cutting through these conventional myths, and just finding the right sort of information, which eventually helped me, and then using that same information to help others. So I think developing a scientific rationale and developing that know-how was what I did differently in my case.
Did you also flaunt your abs once you got them, just like Mr. Nair did in that story?
Absolutely.
It's something that comes naturally, but let's come to our second guest. On that note, we have Gina Shah, who's a nutritionist. She's worked with several Bollywood celebrities and on latest diets to make them fit, but the natural and healthy way. So welcome, Gina. And as I introduced Jitendra, you actually get up at 7 a.m. dot on the clock. But last year, any changes that you have made to your exercise routine because of COVID and the lockdown?
Firstly, thank you, Devina, for having me here. Yes, in fact, it shifted a little bit. It was much earlier because there was also work from home and work at home, plus there was the fitness routine to take care of. So the way I would start my day was that I brush my teeth, I eat something, and then I first get my Surya Namaskars done and then get moving with the rest of my day.
So Surya Namaskar, sun salutation, and part of the yoga exercise. And on that note, let me introduce our third guest, the yoga guru and expert, Ira Trivedi. Welcome, Ira. I know you've gotten up today at 5:30 then. And it's an early wake-up call for you as well. You did your MBA from Columbia University, switched to practicing yoga for over 16 years now. But Ira, was last year the toughest time that you saw in the fitness industry as well? And a lot of people, though, adapted to yoga at that time. Right now, do you see some sort of a COVID fatigue setting in?
Absolutely, I would say not. In fact, 2020 has been the best year for yoga in decades. It's been a real turning point in at least 2 decades. I think taking yoga online has given so much opportunity to teachers because now they don't need a physical space anymore. The switch over to online is a permanent shift. I think people will not go back to studios as much and with that much frequency, and studios are going to become more of a premier space. So just like the couple was doing, the elderly couple, right? They realized that just doing it at home, attaching to a speaker and a television can give them the workout, then why would people take the trouble now of leaving their homes and doing all that commuting? worrying about hygiene standards when they can do it from the comfort of their home. So this is what has been really, really a turning point, and I think that this business is here to boom, you know? So I think this has been really, really marvelous.
Yes, in fact, practicing some yoga poses with the couple on their terrace made me realize that I do need to pay more attention to my fitness also. But this is interesting what you say right now, Ira, that the technology has actually helped a lot of people get rid of those excuses that you couldn't do it earlier, you couldn't walk to the gym, you couldn't go to and book an instructor, or you couldn't pay also for these expensive classes. It's become more affordable.
Or there was nothing close to you. There was nothing close to your home, right? Saying, okay, I want to do yoga, but there's no studio close to me, there's no teacher close to me. The biggest problem was the lack of access of a teacher. And now what's happening is that I'm sitting in India, and even me, as a teacher, I can get access to so many more teachers around the world. There are no more excuses.
No more excuses, but Jitendra, you've been an avid gym goer, and once the gyms were shut, did you miss that?
Yeah, so look, for me, weight training is extremely important, and so definitely I missed the gym initially, but I had also realized that I have to indulge in weight training, and so I switched my exercise to more home-based workouts, where I switched to full body calisthenics, where you use your body as weight. So I did that. Along with that, I also started prompting other people to adopt the body weight workouts during the period. Yeah.
All right, but you actually made your trip to the gym recently. Tell us about what was it like on the first day, because there was a survey done by GymPick, which is a fitness aggregator. It surveyed around 50,000 people, and it said that 93% of those people were apprehensive and had doubts about the sanitization process and whether they should start working out there. Tell us your experience.
Well, of course, what you're saying is very right, because even for me, there was a little bit of nervousness initially, but when I went there, I realized that there were just 3 or 4 of us in the gym. It was a bit of, you feel like, okay, this has to change, and I hope that, there is less of fear and people start coming in and, getting back to their fitness routine.
But let me shift gears, and because we have 3 experts from different fields of fitness on the show, we also want to take some of the queries that our audience has been sending us, because although it's great to say that stay healthy, but what are the impediments when you try and get into a fitness routine, and how do you overcome those challenges is what we want to focus on as well. So let's take our first query, which is from Pragya in Delhi.
I contracted COVID in December last year. Before, I used to exercise and run a lot, but now after recovering, I'm not able to do so. So what can I do to regain my stamina?
Alright, so that was Pragya talking about her recovery journey. Ira, so this question is to you. Did you face similar kind of situation with your clients, those who have recovered after being infected from COVID and are trying to get their strength back? What is your advice to them?
So I'll tell you one thing. While yoga may not help you, may not prevent COVID-19, right? It may not prevent you from getting typhoid or dengue or malaria, some of these, or COVID-19, because this is a highly infectious disease. What yoga can help you and does help you is with recovery. We've had so many students who've had COVID-19, and each one of them say that yoga practice helped me bounce back very quickly. It helped them bounce back, especially the breathing practices helped with their lung strength. They actually did the breathing practices through COVID. So we have had such a positive feedback from people who've had COVID-19 and their bounce back rates.
And Gina, let me come to you on that note, because what we just heard Pragya talk about again is COVID recovery, and a lot of people would have that question that what kind of a diet should I have if I am experiencing lack of strength or loss of stamina?
Well, I feel, the lockdown as well as COVID by itself has given us the opportunity to really re-establish our connect with home food, traditional food, and with our kitchens. The one thing that the kitchen brings out is a whole lot of strength, stamina, and immunity. To give you one small example, when you fall sick or even with something like COVID, the one food that you will be okay to have is khichdi, and it gives you everything. It's easy to digest. We didn't have enough domestic help. There's not much cleaning that you need to do if you're having something like a khichdi. It's also tasty at the same time, and it gives you all the nutrients that you need to just get up and get moving. to overcome something like COVID.
All right. So khichdi again is a mixture of rice and pulses, particularly popular in India, and it has a high nutrition value as well, as Jeenal is talking about. But Jitendra, what about you? Did you see some of your clients who were infected with COVID and then they came back to the exercise routine? What kind of advice did you give them, and what was their experience?
The only key here is consistency, and don't give up. You will face some challenges. You might take 6 months or a full year to make that recovery, when your lung capacity is at your optimal. So just be persistent, and you've already won one fight, so there's no time for you to quit and lose another. So it's just a matter of time.
But do you advise them to take it slow, or do you tell them that watch out for certain parameters? Because a lot of people have been experiencing breathlessness.
So yes, it would be my advice to make sure that you take things gradually. Depending on your level of expertise, if you're a beginner, then probably be easier just by doing body weight exercises before you make a full-fledged recovery and go back to the gym lifting heavyweight squats.
All right. So from Ira, do focus on breathing exercises. From Jitendra, do take it slow. Keep a check on all the parameters while you're exercising. And from Jeenal, do ensure that you're having home-cooked food. Well, on that note, let's shift to our second query, and this is from the northern Indian city of Chandigarh, where Pritika wants to ask question to our panel.
During the pandemic, I've been very concerned about my nutrition and what I should eat and what not. So is there any diet in particular that we can follow to help boost our immunity? Also, is there anything particular we must eat every day that could help us avoid contracting COVID?
Alright, this is up your alley, because I do know a lot of people have been asking you about the immunity diet. What kind of foods can be consumed to make or boost your immunity and make your immunity stronger?
Well, a few things that you must include on a daily basis. Number one is ghee or clarified butter. The way to do it is try to make it at home and add a teaspoon in your breakfast, lunch and dinner each on a daily basis. The other thing that should be there in the daily diet is local seasonal fresh fruit. Filled with antioxidants, filled with polyphenols, things that you need to get that immunity boosting. The third thing that works really well is a diversity of grains like jawar, or called as pearl millet, ragi, which is finger millet, all of these ancient grains which have their own traditional preparations, and you use those preparations to make things like a dosa, or to make things like a khichdi, or you make things like a porridge, and that's what you also work at introducing. And the last thing that will work really well is seeds and nuts. Just chewing on nuts makes you feel good, and it also has a whole lot of nutrients that allows you to beat the stress.
So dosa is rice pancake, but honestly, what has been your comfort food? I'm sure you've cheated on your own diet as well.
Yes, after things got okay, the first thing I ran for was ragda patties.
Alright, that's another snack which is found quite famously in the western Indian city of Mumbai. But what about you, Ira? What kind of diet did you follow during this time? And was there a point where you also cheated on your diet?
Well, I would say what my temptation is to have that cup of chai or that cup of coffee. Now, actually, I don't remember the last time I had a cake, but definitely during lockdown, there was a daily practice of having this chai and cake.
Well, tea is something and cake is something that you were fond of, Ira. So what happened? How did you control it?
The urge was a decided urge. It was something that I decided and I planned for. So the best way is not to control your urges, but to plan for them. Saying that, eating a cake and coffee or cake and tea is making me feel good, I'm going to do it 5 times a week. But I'm not going to do it on 2 days of the week. So the best way to control the urges is actually not to control them, but to plan for them. Saying that, today I feel like having a pizza, so I'm going to go for a pizza. I'm going to order a pizza. But then for the next 2 days, I'm going to make sure that I have enough raw salad or I have a lot of veggies. So you have to plan your meals. We plan everything else in life, but we don't plan our meal and not control the urges, but plan for them.
All right, so plan your meals, have meals with nutritional values. There is absolutely no problem cheating if it's once in a while and then you're planning. But Jeenal has prescribed healthy snacking habits as well, which includes eating nuts. Okay, on that note, let me go to our third query. And this is from Sridhar, who is in Delhi. And let's listen in to what he wants to ask our panel.
people like me who are fond of long distance running, cardio activity. It's simply too dangerous to run outdoors because of the very high air pollution levels. And on the other hand, it's a bit of a scare to run in an enclosed space such as a gym. So there's a feeling of being boxed in, of being inactive. It takes its toll on the fitness levels, it takes its toll on the mental well-being. So if we could just get some suggestions on this one from the panel of experts.
Jitendra, what would be your advice? Because even I tried cycling early in the morning just to keep up with my New Year resolution for 2021. And in Delhi, it is polluted and there is smog. It just takes a toll on your lungs when you try and pedal faster. What's your advice to the clients who would like to do outdoor exercise and they're healthy enough to also go out?
Right, so I think there's nothing wrong with visiting nearby parks as long as you're wearing your mask and maintaining social distance. So there's nothing wrong with that. So we just have to accept the fact that this is a pandemic. Everybody is going through the same trouble, and then we just have to make live with it. That's what it is.
But definitely wear a mask and take all the kind of precautions. But the other part of Sridhar's question was also mental well-being. And Ira, that's where I want to come to you. Because at a time when we're seeing that the COVID fear is still there. We have a strain that was identified first in the UK of COVID, now making its way to India. And also there's a bird flu scare. So 2021 continues to be filled with anxiety when it comes to our health. What do you suggest? How to alleviate some of these concerns and how to maintain a balanced outlook even in this time of crisis?
So I would say, first of all, commit. That's the first thing. Commit to 21 days. Commit to 21 days of a regular meditation and don't overcommit. Choose a 5 to 10 minute meditation. If you have 5 to 10 minutes, you can go to an app. Number 2, commit to a course. If I tell you what, paying for something makes you commit these days. So pay for it. Make sure you pay something not for their sake, but for your own sake. So it keeps you going.
So one way of committing to exercise is paying for it, is what Ira is saying. But Jeenal, coming to you, because let me compare these 21 days to what are the other attractions. A latest movie that is streaming or a latest series that is streaming that is keeping you awake late in the night. Your sleep hygiene goes for a toss. So how do you form that routine? What's the one thing that you can do to start?
Well, what you need to do is just make sure that you switch off all your gadgets at a fixed time every single day. So preferably, of course, before midnight, and don't go into beyond 12 o'clock. The other thing that works really well is, to improve your quality of sleep is to just drink a cup of milk with a little bit of haldi, and that will help you to sleep really well in the night. And the last thing that will really help is to take a short nap in the afternoon between 1 to 3 p.m., like a 20-minute short nap. It works beautifully to allow you to get into a good sleeping routine.
So haldi is another word for turmeric. And anyone who's had turmeric latte on the panel? Okay. Gina, apart from you, nobody has had turmeric latte here.
But as haldi milk.
Yes, as haldi milk or turmeric milk. But that's a great advice coming for someone who wants to have healthy sleep. And with that, let me also wrap up this discussion with just the last pointers, because I started by talking about the wake-up time for each and every one of you. And you the ones who are, I can safely say, in the early morning club. Now, for someone who wants to make that start, and I'll start with me in that case, Ira, what's your advice?
Divina, based on everyone's genetic chronotype, you may be programmed to not actually be a morning person genetically. So don't force yourself to wake up in the morning if you don't feel good doing it. Not everyone does. Don't be so hard on yourself. But if you feel better by waking up in the morning, if you realize that, wow, when I wake up at 6 a.m., everything is better for me. My body functions better, my appetite is better, I'm more positive, then you should make that switch, but do it with 15-minute increments. That's the best.
You just made me feel so good about myself, Ira. So I'm going to toss this question to Jitendra then. As we've been talking about, technology has made fitness more accessible. But what are the pitfalls that people should be wary of? And the points where they need to seek an expert advice and not follow everything that is online blindly?
What are some of the pitfalls? I'd say over-reliance on these kind of things. Like sometimes, we'll use these gadgets for accurate calculation of calories, accurate calculation of the calorie burn, and they end up, feeling good about all the things that they didn't do. Most of these gadgets are inaccurate. They should be used with caution, right? So that, and online is filled with plethora of information. You just have to be smart about selecting the right kind of information. Be critical, think logically, be scientific. Don't just believe the hearsay from here and there.
All right, Jitendra, on that note, let me come to Jinal then. Last word to you, because Jinal, I do know that you have a food test on how to identify the right kind of food that you should eat. Tell us about it and let's end with that.
All right. So there are 3 levels to this. So the first one is the grandmother test. The grandmother test is one, whether your grandmother has grown up eating this food or not. So if you look at like poha versus and oats, for example, so she surely does recognize poha as food and something that she's grown up eating. Oats maybe she would recognize, but she may not have grown up eating. So then that fails the test. The second test is the versatility test. The versatility test is the ability of a food to be converted to various things. Look at rice, for example. You can make a biryani out of it. You can make just a khichdi out of it. You can just have dal rice. So that's the versatility of rice. So it qualifies the test. And the third test is your food miles test. So how much the food needs to travel from the place that it grows to land onto your plate. The shorter the distance, the better it is for you. So for any diet to be successful, it needs to be sustainable, something that you see yourself doing for the rest of your life.
So poha that you mentioned is Indian breakfast made of rice flakes, and again biryani is another Indian rice dish. So thanks for those tips, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of use for our audience. With that, let's wrap up this show. Thank you everyone for joining us and giving us your time and your expert advice. And I wish you all a healthy and a safe 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the journey to be fit begins with small steps. So I hope